the light is always available to us. The sun doesn't go out when the night covers us. We're just on the other side. Like electricity, it's not something we can invent. It's always there. We just need to know how to connect to it to get the most benefit without being burned. To the merits of the Tzaddikim, because God is always the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we have access to a form of communication through the grace of God, which is wonderful. And now, those of us who follow the Rabbi Yeshua have in him an enormous channel of blessing and access, because he, like no other tzaddik, permanently carries the 4 sacred codes, Yud, Bajay. They are the perfect combination of letters to identify the essence of divinity that they contain within themselves. The 4 most extraordinary communication channels with the higher worlds that exist and that lift us even above the 4 known universes to the very throne of mercy. Using the merits of the Rebbe, we are using the sacred power of YHWH to heal wounds, repair damaged gates, overcome the obstacles that prevent us from that marvelous connection with the Borei Olam. This only happens if we understand that we are the ones actively participating in the process. In other words, we must take the initiative and understand that the dynamism of the connection is within our souls. In other words, God rarely answers a prayer. We ourselves are the ones who answer them. When we make the proper connection with the proper source and by the proper merits and means, appearing before the heavenly court without a good defense lawyer.
In risky.
And for that, many have lost their lives in the process and others have not returned. And those who have returned have withered away afterward. The right thing is not to ask God for this or that because He knows what we need. It's right to ask God to give us wisdom, to discover all the skills, resources, and energies that have already been given to us, to achieve all those things we need. Instead of asking God for things in this life, ask Him to show you the wealth of resources you already have and the life He has given you to achieve all those things.
Do you need a house to live in? Don't say to the Lord, give me a house where I can live. Instead say, Lord, show me the skill you have placed in me.
To know how I can do it, to get that house to live in, because that is your will. In the face of the imminent final attack of the Pharaoh by the Red Sea, the words of the Eternal could not be more extraordinary. Why do you cry out to me? Tell the people to move forward. It's clear that God has given us the ability to overcome the enemy forces that surround us, suffocate us, and threaten us.
But the great but of radical change.
Connected with Him in the right way, those abilities will arise whenever you need them. To discover the hidden riches in your inner world.
It will be one of the most extraordinary adventures of faith you will ever experience.
And the foundation of everything is faith. It is to believe in God. That's placed deep inside of you. How will it affect your life? When you discover that God doesn't answer your prayers, but you yourself answer it when you are able to connect with Him. As the sages wrote, if we ask for something that is His will, we know that we have the requests we have made of Him. Of course, the source of everything is God, because a man cannot receive anything unless it comes from heaven. However, what comes to us from heaven, it's not something God is creating for you now. It already was. Potentially breathed it into you on the day of your conception. It's about discovering that potential and those resources now, taken by His hand as a main partner in all your affairs. Once we understand this, we become giants and you become untouchable. There are hundreds of negative forces and energy fields that will try to stop your dreams from coming true. In fact, God Himself has orchestrated them this way, to make you strive, stretch, break records. If we work together with those forces on the other side, being negative and talking negatively, we attract those forces and further self-imprison. Darkness is not conquered by bringing more darkness, but by increasing the light. And that is God's idea, that you learn to bring light. The more light, the less darkness. And here, as it is written, Hashem's lamp is the spirit of man within him. It is clear that the encoded message becomes clear. Within you is the light. Within you is the light. Discover it and make its flame grow. It's your responsibility. If you say that God doesn't answer you, why don't you try another way? Why don't you try answering them yourself with the hidden resources He has already instilled within your soul? The sacred name was known by the ancients. Some angels were honored to carry it for a certain time in the exercise of their functions. Great prophets and sages also received it. But once their mission was over, the honor was taken away from them. However, Yeshua, our righteous Messiah, is the only one who permanently holds it today.
The name that is above every name.
Connecting with Him like branches to the trunk and from the root is the secret to success, joy, and hope. Seeking other communication ways is just making the path longer and less safe.
Just because it feels too familiar, you shouldn't take for granted. As they say in English, don't take Him for granted.
Oh, don't think that just because the sun and its light reach us new every 8 minutes, it is so common and everyday that it has no great value. Let's try to seek ourselves. It doesn't really matter how many suns exist beyond ours, or how much brighter they may be. The one that affects us is critical for us, and its light is our life. In fact, we couldn't live without it. So when our everyday sun ceases to be, and its light no longer reaches us, simply, our life here on earth, as we know it now, would also cease to be. Familiar doesn't mean cheaper, quite the opposite. What is most precious to God always comes to us as a gift from His grace. Otherwise, we could never afford it, nor accumulate the merits needed to obtain it. It's that simple and straightforward. To seek new lights in the distant east is to reverse the old order. The ones from the east came to Jerusalem, for we have seen His star, and we have come to pay Him royal honors. Yeshua carries the sacred name YHWH in his soul, with all its combinations and possibilities,
Getting closer to Tisei Arabo through him is wise.
And whoever discovers it like this will discover life, real life, which the prophets have spoken about. Because as the Master said in that ancient tradition, anyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give them will never be thirsty again.
Have a wonderful day and rise to bliss, searching within yourself for that pearl of great value, that source of water of life.
That the Most High God please to hide in the labyrinths of your soul, so that later, united with those of the Tzaddik of Israel, let the gates of glory be opened.
The gates of hell. Hasta la intención de la alegría, long there, de Dios, in peace, there's been hope.
Shalom.